and welcome back to another edition of Virtual Yoga. Today we're going to do a little bit of really a practice that I like to do. I just call it everyday yoga. Some poses that you should be doing or could do every single day. It's not the most dynamic of practices, but it's something that's still going to help stretch and get the mobility for your hips and spine. And the hips and spine are typically areas of the body that people tend to develop issues with. Aside from just tightness, things like degeneration of the joints are pretty common, and this is a sequence to help prevent a lot of those issues. And if you're joining us today, a few things I might recommend if you have them. A hand towel is always a useful prop. We can use them as straps or we can use them as cushions. Block if you have them. Pillows if you have them too. Blankets are always nice. Anything that just makes you more comfortable, gives you a little bit of extra cushion. Maybe a little fur baby here. If you have a furry friend, again, always let them join in your practice. A lot of times they're going to want to join with you whether you want them to or not. So why don't we start this practice off in a comfortable position. You can sit down if you'd like to. You can lay on the floor or on your yoga mat. Wherever you're at, just go ahead and start closing your eyes. There's nothing to see at this point, just more to feel and pay attention to. And we want to pay attention to the breath. Breathe low in your belly and low in your diaphragm. If you ever want to double check this, make sure you're doing it correctly. You place a hand on your stomach below your belly button. You're going to feel the stomach expand when you take an inhale. It will contract when you take an exhale. And this is belly breathing. It's the breathing technique that I recommend for our practice. Again, we're doing a slower paced practice, so we want to slow the body down. Breathing low in your diaphragm will always help with this. It's going to slow your heart down. It will slow your nervous system down. It will slow your mind down. And again, what we're doing today is a little bit of yin yoga. Yin yoga, again, a gentle, passive style of yoga to stretch not only the muscles, but the connective tissues of the body, the deeper tissue that hold your muscles, your bones, and your organs in place and in line. It's essentially the glue and inner webbing that keeps your body upright. So it's a really important thing to work, but a lot of us are unfamiliar with it. And again, how we do it is by holding poses for a while. With our poses today, we're going to hold them for roughly 3 to 5 minutes. But the times that I give you are arbitrary and subjective. So if your better judgment tells you to come out of something early, this is fine. You do not have to hold the pose the entire time. But if you feel comfortable and you want to hold it the entire time, maybe even a little longer, it's up to you. My advice to you is to let experience be your guide. Let your body tell you what you need to do. But during this half hour, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in on comments. My better half here is with me, and if you have any questions, she can read them out loud to me, and then I can answer them through this particular Facebook Live feed. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. And I'll have you all start this off laying on your back. I want you to just bring your knees up to the chest, cradle your legs, rock up and down on your spine, side to side, make circles, using your intuition here to help wake up these deeper areas, right? These are the areas that we're going to be spending our time on in our practice today, primarily the hips and spine. And again, we're going to do 3 poses today. So nothing, again, too dynamic, but something that I would recommend you do every single day, just for maintenance, just to help prevent these issues that may or may not come up with your hips and with your spine. when you're ready, and no rush, no hurry, but you can go ahead and come up to a comfortable seated position. The three poses that I'm going to recommend we do today will be a forward bend, a back bend, and it will be a twist to each side. And I'll give a couple of different options for you so that you can kind of play around with it and see maybe which areas you need to stretch a little bit more of, just again, depending on the pose and the target area that you want to spend some time on. But the first option that I'm showing right now, excuse me, Winnie, is called the butterfly pose. I don't know if you can see this, but you have the soles of the feet together in front of you, and you fall in round in the pose as best you can. Now, if you can't get the head to the feet, don't worry about it. It's not the point of the stretch. So don't pull and yank and force with all your might to get down there. The intention of this is to feel your inner thighs and to feel your back stretch. Nice broad stretches, right? And with all of these poses, I guess I should say 75% of them, we want to feel broad stretches that we can open palm, wave our hand to, say, yeah, we feel this right here. And this is one option. But another option that I can suggest, and it really depends on how your knees and how your hips feel, might be a dragonfly pose, where you spread out your legs, you lean forward. It's the same deal, inner thighs, the back, as well as the target area of this particular stretch. You do get a bonus hamstring stretch with this one as well, so again, up to you. A third option for you. Again, any of these are fine. You can do one of them or a combination of all of them. But caterpillar pose. You have both legs extended out in front of you. You fall in round in the pose as best as you can. And you're going to want to grab something comfortable. That could just be your knees, that could be your shins, that could be the ankles, that could be around the feet, around the toes. Not a toe-touching competition, so if you can't, don't worry about it. It's not the point. The stretch, right? The point is to feel the back of your legs and feel your back stretch, right? So all three of these poses that I have suggested, they all have different target areas. One was for the inner thighs, one was inner thighs and hamstrings, and one was just hamstrings, this one right here. And, you know, I can feel it. I'm tight in my hamstrings today. So this is going to be the pose that I choose for myself, right? So if you feel like, you know what, no, it's my inner thighs, then, well, you go ahead and target that. Now, if you're doing a caterpillar pose, something I like to do, if you're really tight in your hamstrings and you're struggling to round in, you could always use a strap. I use a towel here a lot just to help pull you into it. But, right, try not to pull back with it. If we start pulling back, we lose the benefit of the forward bend. And that's really the reason why I wanted you to do this pose, is to round your spine into it. What you're doing to your back is called decompression. Decompression means you are pulling bones away from each other. And right now, what you're doing to your spine is you're creating space in between each vertebrae. And that's going to help continue to maintain the mobility of your vertebrae. Something that happens to us as we age, with contracture, our bodies are always tightening, especially the connective tissues. They will contract so tightly that it's going to start to shrink your spine. And this is a common thing that you will see with aging. People literally become shorter. So what we do here, when we manipulate our spine, we start stretching this back out, and then we can lengthen that spine back up. You know, I have a lot of students that have told me that they've grown doing this practice, like half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. Somebody said they grew 2 inches. They're not really growing. These are people, again, who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s. They're just gaining height that they have lost through age. So again, it's something that we can get back. It's just something we have to be consistent with, which is why I'm suggesting doing these poses every day. Again, a forward bend, a back bend, and a twist to each side. Go ahead and relax into this for the next minute. Let your muscles soften as best you can. If muscles refuse to soften, then we just need to dial back the intensity. That's why I like to give you the scale of stretching. Between 1 and 10, if 10's your deepest stretch, go for 6 and 7. You're less likely to overstretch there, more likely to relax, find a nice moderate stretch, nothing too much, nothing too little. It's just right. ahead and take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, there's the time for this pose. Really slowly push yourself out of the pose. Go ahead and lay down on your back and take your time getting there. It might feel like a long way away. But just lay down, observe the changes. Whatever pose you decided to do, whatever its intention was, feel those target areas. See how different they feel after holding a pose for a few minutes. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and make your way back for a comfortable seated position. So we just did our forward bend, and now I'm going to recommend a back bend. Two poses that I can offer up for you: Sphinx pose and supported bridge. If you're going to do supported bridge, you're going to need a block or maybe some pillows for this one, but again, I'll demonstrate both. But a Sphinx pose, you lay on your stomach, you prop up onto your forearms and your elbows, and this is the pose, right? This is the one where it's not actually a stretch. What you're going to feel is compression. You're going to be squeezing your vertebrae in the lower back. And it should feel dull and gentle. If it feels like it's really sharp, it's excruciating, that's a sign you need to lower down. Most of the time, that sharpness is either you compressing a nerve or an artery. And long-term exposure of that could cause nerve damage or impinge blood flow, which is something obviously we don't want to do. So if it feels sharp, you'll lower down. Or you could do supported bridge, where you have a block, you put it under your back, and you're going to lay on it. And this is the pose. So you could have your knees bent and your feet on the floor, or you can slide your legs out towards the edge of the mat. When the legs slide out, there's a deeper arc in the spine. Actually, might be a good opportunity to see from this particular profile view. When we bring the knees close to the chest, there's a little bit less of the round going on here. But once those legs are straight out, deeper arch. So in this particular pose, straightening the legs will be the deeper modification. But you could always play around with things too. Like, what's the block look like? Are you laying it flat? Is it flipped up? Is it vertical? I usually keep it low and flat because I do not have a deep back bend. It's not necessary for me to go into anything too deep. But again, dull and gentle pressure, pushing those vertebrae back. So again, the intention of this everyday yoga, one was the forward bend to round the spine to decompress it. Now what we're doing is we're compressing it. But really with this, it's only the back side of the spine that's compressing. Your spinous process, this is what they're called. They kind of look like your dinosaur bones every now and then I hear them called. But what's happening to the front side of the spine is the front side is decompressing. So this particular part is opening up. And this is the mobility we need to make with our spine if we want to continue to move it, right? We have to bend it forward, we have to bend it back. Pretty straightforward. And again, this is something that you can do every single day. You don't have to do this for 5 minutes on every single pose. We're just kind of doing that in our practice today. But you might find out one day you only have 10 minutes to do yoga. Maybe you only have 15 minutes to do it. But some yoga, 10 minutes, 15 minutes is better than no yoga. And in a time like this, when we're stuck and we're essentially quarantined into one location, it's important for us to continue to move the spine, move the body in general. As we age, again, with this process called contraction, where our connective tissues contract on us, if we stop moving, it can take over your body. And that's when we really start losing ranges of motion. That's when joints can literally freeze. The most common example of this is frozen shoulder syndrome, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. And that literally means the connective tissues around your shoulder have contracted so much that they've overlapped and they've frozen the joint. So you can't lift your arm up. The remedy, by the way, if you do have this, is to take your other arm that's not frozen and just push this one up. Right? Pushing that arm up gets the mobility back. So it's, again, a pretty straightforward answer to doing it, but it's just something we have to do. We have to be consistent with our practice.
if we really want to see change within ourselves. A little bit over halfway through this pose. This is one of those poses, again, that's going to solve a lot of issues with your spine. Especially for things like bulging discs. What you're doing to your spine right now, the compression on the backside pushes the disc back into place. My teacher used to give the comparison of like a jelly donut. When you squeeze on one side of the donut, it's going to push the jelly out on the other. Right? So that's what you're doing with your spine and with those discs, trying to get them back into place. It's going to help with a lot of issues, especially things like natural degeneration. Degeneration is going to pretty much happen to almost everybody, and it comes from a lot of sitting. Sitting is one of the worst things that you can do with your body. Obviously, we all have to sit. I don't expect you to just be up and moving at all moments of the day, but if you are going to sit, be a stickler about it. Hey, Wendy, thank you. And she's going to help us with our down dog. Show me the up dog. Thank you. Okay. Lay down, baby. Right there. Good, you got a little furry friend. Let them join in. They're going to have a fun time with you on the floor. Lay down. There you go. Enjoy the last minute of this. Good girl. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's the time. Take the path of least resistance out of your pose. If you're in a Sphinx pose, you'll lay on your stomach. If you're in a supported bridge, lift your hips up, slide the block out, and lay down on your back. At some point, it's going to feel really nice to do a gentle forward bend. Typically, for those who came from a Sphinx pose, if you're on your stomach, child's pose usually feels pretty nice. But if you're laying on your back, you could always bring your knees up to the chest. That's the inversion of a child's pose. Maybe I'll just demonstrate that. Here's a child's pose. Knees to the chest, rounding forward, but again, the knees are on the floor. But if you're doing the inversion, laying on your back, bring your knees to the chest, right? This is the same thing. Just a different orientation, just a different inversion to it. It's not better or worse to lay on your back or do a child's pose. Some people might actually feel like they want to do a downward facing dog. One of my favorite poses to stretch my calves is a down dog. And for a lot of people, if you have tight calf muscles, you might want to consider doing like sort of like a three-legged dog almost. So you have your hands in front. I usually will keep one foot up in front of me. Makes it a little bit easier just for the upper body effort. And I'll try to reach the heel of the back leg to touch the floor. Hold it for a moment. I usually do like 30 seconds to a minute. Depends on how tight I am at the moment. And obviously, if you're going to do one side, you got to do the other. So you bring that other foot up. The back leg's heel will try to touch the floor. It might not touch the floor, though. It could be a couple of reasons. You could just be really tight in your calves. Or it could be compression. If your bones are stopping you, you're not going to go past that point. You'll never be able to get the heels to the floor. And again, the easiest way to tell the difference between tension pain and compression pain is what it feels like. If you're doing a pose that you feel tension in, you'll be able to wave your hand and say, yeah, this whole thing stretching right now. But if you're feeling compression, you'll be able to point with one finger and say, I feel it right here. It's pinching, it's squeezing, there are bones coming together. That's not going to change, right? That's just one of those things that we have to learn to live with and accept the reality of we all have different bodies. We're not going to do it the same way. We have one more pose left to do. We will do it to each side, and then we'll end this particular version of virtual yoga. So the two things we've done so far
a forward bend. We've done a back bend, but now we have to twist, right? And we'll do that to each side. Reclining twist is going to be the pose that I suggest with this one. This is where you lay on your back. You're going to bring your knees up towards your chest, take your legs over to the side, and lay them on the floor. This is the pose, and the intention of it is to feel the side of your body. Obliques, you might feel your IT band sometimes stretching here, the outside of the leg, glutes as well. And again, with this, it depends on which way you're twisting. For example, I'm twisting my legs to the left. I'm feeling the lower right side of my back, outside of my right leg, my glutes as well on the right side. So essentially, the whole right side of my body is stretching. But if you happen to be going to the other side, if you're twisting right, it would be lower left side of the back, left side of the body. This is a pose where you might find out you're struggling. Maybe you can't get the knees together. Maybe you can't get the legs to the floor. A block will always come into play here, where you can take the block, maybe put it in between your knees, maybe put it under your bottom leg. Whatever makes this more comfortable for you and allows you to relax, right? We want the muscles to soften. And if our muscles refuse to soften, we're not going to be able to work into the joints. I'll explain more about that in a moment. So that's why it's okay to not worry about how deep do you go into it. It's more about what's comfortable for me while I still feel some kind of stretch, even if it's very mild. But a few things you can always throw in. Arms out to the T. It's a wonderful chest and shoulder opener. The shoulder that will get the stretch is going to be the one that's going away from your legs. Again, for example, I'm twisting left. So I'm feeling the inside of my right chest and shoulder here. But other things you can do, arms above the head. That can get you a little bit more oblique and side body. You might also feel your triceps stretching here too. Every now and then you might. If you want to stretch your neck, look away from your legs. Again, for example, my legs are going left. If I wanted to stretch my neck, I would look away to the right. So I can get my cervical spine twisted here. Another thing that you could do, if you have arms out to the T and you would like more of your chest and shoulder open, just look with your legs. So again, my leg's going left. I'm looking left. That's opening up the right chest and shoulder just a little bit more. The last thing to modify is going to be your legs. Keeping the knees stacked is how we'll start it. But you might also want to increase it. If you feel the need to increase this, you'll take your top leg over the bottom leg. And when the top leg comes over, there's more pelvic rotation, right? You can see how this is a little bit deeper as opposed to keeping the knees stacked. Not that it's a better thing to go as deep as possible, right? Again, not a competition. Don't worry about how far you go, because you might just feel a better stretch with the knee stacked. But if you can take the top leg over, you are able to relax, and you still feel the broad side body stretch, more than welcome to do it. But again, it's one of those judgment calls that you have to be willing to make in your own body. And with experience, you'll be able to tell what exactly that is. But you have to pay attention to the body. Otherwise, you're never going to know. And one of the beauties about yoga is it makes you hypersensitive to everything going on within you. And that's a good thing for us. A lot of people don't have this kind of relationship with their own body until something goes wrong. But yoga is about prevention. It's also about maintenance. It's about treating things that may be going wrong. And this is, again, not just a physical thing, but a mental and emotional thing as well. You'd be amazed at how tight the physical body and the emotional body are. You know, if our physical body feels good, the mind, the emotional body will feel good. And vice versa, if we emotionally feel good, our body will feel good. This is why we have to be consistent with practice if we want to continue to feel these things. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's your time. Slowly unwind from your twist. You can lay on your back if you'd like to. You can lay on your side or bring your knees up to the chest, cradle legs. I like to resist the urge to move and just do nothing. Really observe the difference between the two sides. One of my favorite things to do in between poses is nothing. Just lay there and observe everything.
I feel that this makes the yin practice a little bit more meditative. It's one of the major reasons why I enjoy teaching this class more than any other. It's for the whole meditation aspect of it. When you're ready, you can make your way to the other side. Whatever side that was for you. If you're on the same page as me, you're going right in the twist. And with this, you'll lay on your back, bring your knees up to the chest, take the legs over to the right, lay them on the floor. Again, whatever side you're on, though. If you're on the other side, that's fine. Just make sure you are on your other side. But the intention of it is to feel the side of the body stretching. So again, just for my example, I'm twisting right. I'm feeling the lower left side of my back, my obliques. I'm feeling the outside of my left leg. I'm feeling my glutes a little bit. It's a broad stretch throughout the left side of my body. But if you get here and you notice that two sides are different, it's not abnormal. You know, maybe on this side you need to use the block. You got to put it in between your knees. You got to put it under the bottom leg. Maybe both if you have two blocks, or maybe you got a pillow or two. Again, feel free. Don't worry about the alignment. That's not the point of it, right? The point is to be able to functionally feel the stretch. So if you need a prop, use it. But if you're able to settle in to this, the upper body was something that we can modify here. Arms out to the T. It's a great chest and shoulder opener. And that's going to be the shoulder of the opposite shoulder of the direction your legs are going. So again, my legs are going right. It's inside of my left chest and shoulder getting this particular opener. But maybe you did arms above the head, and you got more of your obliques and your side body stretch, you got your triceps involved. You know, whatever you did on the other side, do your best to do here. If you stretched your neck, you will look away from your legs. My legs are going right, so if I wanted to stretch my neck, I would look left. If the cervical's fine a little bit. Or if you had arms out to the T, and you got a little bit more of the chest and shoulder opener, you look with your legs. So if your legs are going right, you would look right. That would open up that left shoulder just a little bit more. Whatever you did on the other side, do here. If that was a combination of all these things, use your internal clock, feel it out as to when you need to adjust. But the last thing to adjust will be the position of your legs. Keeping the knees stacked might be enough, or maybe you want to continue using the block. Maybe you need to go deeper on this side. Take the top leg over the bottom leg. Maybe you place that leg on the floor. But if you can't relax into it, like your core muscles, your back muscles are starting to flex and starting to tighten, you're going too deep. Keep the knees stacked. But if you're in this and you're saying, yeah, I can relax, I feel the broad side body stretch, I feel the outside of my leg, then you're fine. But again, muscles really need to soften in order for this to be effective. If muscles are flexing, they're actually locking up your joints. And I can give you a good example of this too. Take your pointer finger, doesn't matter which one. Flex it as hard as possible and try to pull it out of the socket. And all of a sudden, you can't do that, right? Because the muscles around it have locked this joint up. Shake it off, take that same finger, relax it, and then grab it and pull it out. And now all of a sudden, there's that little dimple in between your finger and your knuckle. And that's because the muscles around here have all relaxed. So again, that's the same principle that we apply with our hips and spine. If they're flexing on us, they're locking up. But if they can relax, you can create that space, and we can really work into the deeper tissues as best as we can. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, here's your time. Slowly unwind from your twist. You can lay on your back if you'd like to. You can lay on your side. Bring your knees up to the chest if you'd like to. lay flat, resist the urge to move, it's up to you. But take a minute for yourself. Just try to feel all those changes that you've made within your practice, even though it was only 3 poses. Again, a forward bend, a back bend, and we twisted to each side. And again, like I said, this is something I would recommend you do every day, just for the sake of maintenance, to continue to move the body. Again, being confined in a tight space, sitting down for X amount of hours, it's going to take a toll on you, physically especially. And aside from being quarantined right now, consider even before this, the typical American day. Let me just take you through. So, the first thing you're doing in your American day, you're laying down, right? You're in bed. The alarm goes off. You hit the snooze. 10 more minutes. Rest. And then you get up. What's the first thing you do? You sit down. I'm guilty of it too. I sit down, I drink a coffee, I scroll on my phone and read the news, right? That's the first thing that I'll do. The next thing you're going to do, what is it? You're probably going to go to work. So you're going to get up, you're going to get into your car, you're going to sit down, and you're going to drive to work. And if you work a desk job, consider this. You're going to be going there and sitting down for the next few hours, right? Until lunch. And then what do then? You sit down once more. And then, well, I got to get up, finish my work, I'll sit down again at my desk. And then you'll get into your car, you'll sit, you'll drive home. And then you're just so tired from your day that you're going to go home and you're going to sit. And then you're going to lean back, watch some television, maybe just drink a 12-ounce can of beer or something like that, and that's your day. You fall asleep, wake up, rinse, repeat, do that for 50 years. And people wonder why their backs fall apart. If we do something like this consistently, you will solve so many of those unnecessary back injuries that may come with age. So again, for prevention, for maintenance, that's why we're doing this practice. But we're at the end of our practice. So find a comfortable position. You could lay on your mat. You can sit upright if you'd like to. Again, wherever you're comfortable, go there. Close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point. It's more to feel, pay attention to. Focusing on the breath and breathing low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses, your awareness within. And I want to give you a short meditation to practice today. It's nothing too much. I just want you to focus on your breath. If you have a thought come to mind, I promise you, you will. The moment you catch yourself thinking, let the thought go, come back to your breath. Right there is a victory in meditation. When the mind wanders, but you catch it and you bring it back towards the meditation, that's what we practice. And the more we do this, the less likely the mind is to wander. So go ahead and just focus on your breath for the next few minutes. It may help to have a count with it. No formal ending to our practice. You stay in your Shavasana, your meditation, as long as you'd like. But that's officially all that I have for you. I want to
Thank you all for watching, sharing your practice with me. It's been my pleasure. Namaste.